Hello guys, this is Nephis here, and boy am I tired. We just finished the 3 hour long public test server raid to test the significant healer and healing nerf changes coming to the Elder Scrolls Online in Update 23 for the Scalebreaker DLC patch. And this was week 3 PTS, where they finally introduced the second iteration of the new orb, where everyone can now synergize one orb, so there's no cap on the orb. And I finally got a PTS raid team together. It was a mixed bag and varying levels of experience, which was perfect, I suppose, for simulating the mid-tier slash progression raid groups that are the majority of the player population for PvE. So a lot of you actually came by the Twitch stream earlier tonight, and I really appreciate your show of support and so on. That was really cool to see that a lot of people, like more than 80 people, turned out to watch the what the healing changes are going to be like next patch. And basically, if you don't want to watch the rest of the video and you just want a summary of what the healing changes are like next patch, I'll just summarize it the best way I can. Number one, the healer role, the healer playstyle has completely changed. From my perspective, it's very dull, it's very boring, very simple, very dumbed down, very straightforward. Number two, the same changed playstyle allows for new builds, new raid play in terms of trials and group compositions, potentially new setups for groups in general. And number three, the real concern of healers as a demographic and the role, the real concern is still here that healers aren't necessary anymore for DLC dungeons, for the hardest trials. So I'll get more into that third point a little later on in the video, but that's pretty much it. That's a summary. The fourth point is that the healing itself is actually not that bad. The orb change is actually pretty great. I think that's one thing we've all been worried about since week 1 PTS, since we found out that we can no longer synergize, or we can no longer pump out more than one orb at a time per person. And I think a lot of people were satisfied with the change to orbs, how they work, that if you can have everyone synergize an orb in PvP or raid with just one orb, it won't disappear. There's also some concern about the mystic orbs, the blue orbs, and what potential effects it could have on both PvE and PvP fight scenarios, where you could literally have everyone pop blue orbs for massive amounts of damage, but I digress. The healing orb change, great change. The orb change is just a great change. Not in terms of should they have gone this direction, but in terms of making it easier on the healers and the tanks in raids and the DPS. I mean, everyone seems to be pretty happy with it. Everyone from the PTS raid seemed fine, completely fine with it. The amount of healing done was okay. They did buff it slightly, and that's pretty much it. On the other hand, healing overall, as a healer role, and I'm speaking as a endgame healer, or even just a healer, overall the healing is fine for most content, I would say, but could potentially be, again, unnecessary for most content as well. So just to show you guys the specifics of what I mean by these 5 or 6 points that I made for the summary of the video, we'll just go watch over the stream right now. So right here, we're in Veteran Sunspire, and I'm on my Warden healer, whatever. And to be on a side note, the Budding Seeds change, amazing, magnificently done. I think the Budding Seeds change, how they changed it to being a heal over time, until it does a burst heal at the end of the duration. Really great. I think it's a lot better. It improves the clunkiness of the Warden Healer rotation, the Warden Healer skill. I think that was very well done. It is very potent, very strong. And moving on, I did the Warden Healer, and this is a Ola Rime slash Jorvolt setup. And the healing is from, I was saying at the start of the stream, like, hey guys, healing is actually pretty great. It feels good. Numbers, according to common metrics, and what I was saying, was good for trash. And I guess we'll just skip forward here. And the healing, in my opinion, for trash and other content besides Sunspire, I know some people will say, well, the trash isn't that hard in Sunspire. What about Sanctum Ophidia or other trash-intensive trials like Hal Ra? Well, you'll still be fine. The healing will still be fine. And here, 2 people died because, not really because of the lack of heals, but because the mechanic of the trash here was, and the tanks somehow turned the cats towards them. So they died because of that. And also, here I am doing, like, testing a barrier and pumping out 1 orb. And it's really, really satisfying as a healer to see 1 orb get multiple synergies. And the great thing about this is it does combustion, which basically does a burst heal per each synergy. So that's a great amount of healing done per person, all stacked up. It's a great amount of healing for fights where you can stack up. And, well, the barrier I just tested, it's a 12-man barrier now. So that's going to be very interesting. Excuse me, that's going to be very interesting for certain content, for certain fights. I think so far, at this point in the stream, I'm like, okay, so far it's great. It's pretty hilarious. It's pretty satisfying. And the rotation itself, the playstyle, I wasn't really feeling it. I mean, from my perspective, it's really boring. It's really simple. All you literally do, even as a Warden healer, not even a Templar healer, just set your Illustrious healing done. Illustrious healing. You put your budding seeds down, maybe a wall, Blood Altar, which also is a great change because Blood Altars are now instant cast, and that's a pretty cool change. And I just pump out 1 orb, and I'm done. There's literally nothing else to do. And even my fellow, my healer colleague, Sarah Flare, in the trial, when I asked her, like, what do you think about the playstyle? She was like, she literally said the same thing that was in my head. What do I do? So healers definitely, if ZeniMax wants to keep this change, all the changes exactly as they are on PTS Week 3, which I sort of think they should not. Healers next patch will definitely be challenged in terms of both creativity and well, mostly just creativity as to what they will do between these long durations of heals, because you literally don't need to spam healing springs. Illustrious healing lasts for 12 seconds, right? And orb, I mean, you only refresh it when the orb is completely out of group. So it's like, no point. There's really nothing to do besides combat burst, spam, and that's pretty much it. A lot of people that were in favor of this new healer playstyle, well, were happy for some reason because they were like, well, they were just healer bots anyway. They're just healing springing the group. They don't really do anything. But we've just gone from doing complex layered heals and enjoying the playstyle to a simple playstyle where there's really, it's boring. It's literally, if your perception of the healer role in endgame PvE, for those of you who disagree with me, was just healing spring bot or orb bot, well, now you're just a combat prayer bot. So it's I don't know. But yeah, up to this point, the healing was fine for trash. I think trash will be fine in every other content, Sanctum Ophidia, AA, Hal Ra, whatever. I think you'll definitely be able to solo heal a lot of the old fights in Craglorn still. And here I actually want to put a disclaimer in the video, and I said on the stream, I've never healed Lokkestiiz HM. I've never even healed the non-hard mode ice cages, but it was actually surprisingly easy. I don't know whether it's because of player skill or if the buff to healing ward was that strong, but here I'm going to show you guys what the healing looks like in terms of the tomb, the frozen tombs. A lot of you were concerned about frozen tombs, like you couldn't heal through it or whatever. And here, you know, I just pop a healing ward, system hots down, and boom, this guy went in early, hot down, healing ward, boom, we're done. So the ice cages are completely fine. Your healing is completely fine for mechanics like these. We wanted to test overall Lokkestiiz hard mode, Cloud Rest execute, and vHoF hard mode execute. We could not get to vHoF hard mode execute because of the group wiping a lot and wasting time. So the most we could do was attempt Lokkestiiz hard mode and Cloud Rest execute. And the problem here with the springs change is you don't have the option of putting multiple springs in different locations, like 2 or 3 springs in multiple locations. So sometimes the group healer here, when I was over here, you know, healing the people in the ice cages, they had a hard time with positioning the heals. The tank was also having a hard time, you know, getting healed. And here I make a mistake because, again, I'm new at it. But it's very significant, the change to the fact that there's a cap on healing springs or illustrious healing. And yeah, that's pretty much it. For Lokkestiiz hard mode, the biggest challenge for all groups is the beam phase, the add phase, where he applies the beam and static onto the group. And I'm going to skip forward here a bit because as the night went on, we did a lot of wipes, unfortunately, and we really wanted to test the Lokkestiiz beam phase. I'm going to keep forwarding here. And I think about here. And as you can see from the video, I have literally everything down. Budding seeds. I have even the armor buff from the Warden skill line. I have Blood Altar up. I have an orb going. And we're making sure the positioning is correct. There were some hiccups with it. Sometimes people were overlapping. But as you can see, I pretty much have everything down. And there's even a barrier out. And now a lot of people will ask me, well, why didn't you use the other barrier? Reviving barrier. And I didn't realize at the time, but that reviving barrier was slightly buffed to do a lot more healing than it does on live. However, even with reviving barrier here, or whatever, it would not have offset the damage that you just saw. So even with reviving barrier, and even later on, as we see here, we're discussing some interesting strategies. Even with reviving barrier, more mitigation, like circle protection, more healing with circle protection. Technically, like we started to test circle protection's healing. The one of the morphs now heal, and it scales off of course, weapon damage and so on. So DDs have to use it, and the circle protections actually stack. So you can have multiple circle protections in one area, and it heals everybody. And it's a ridiculous heal per second. I mean, we literally had the tank tested. Hold on, I'm gonna get to this part. So here we're testing if they stack, and they actually do stack, right? And the tank actually, if you look at him, hold on, he's balancing. He's gonna test the heal out with balance. Look at him balance. Look at his health. I don't think he's even standing in like, okay, now he's standing in 2 circles. Look at the health. It's like literally stronger than, you know, illustrious heals. It's not even going down, and we even had the other tank, you know, do it too. So it was kind of shocking to see that it's such a strong skill to use, and we decided to have, hey, why not everyone run it towards the end? And we eventually did that. As you can see here, we had literally every DPS on each side run multiple circle protections for the healing. We have Blood Altar going, we have healing, we have a barrier, and watch what happens when the healing hits, or when the beam hits pretty soon. Um, so that may have been a positioning issue, but the other depths now, that those weren't positioning issues. That was literally from like the healing was not enough, even with all that. So this begs the question. This begs the question: how far are you willing to go as a DPS to bring more utility, more defensive skills to the group? Right? I'm not even talking about end game groups here, guys. I'm talking about like mid tier progression groups or just people starting out raiding. You can easily say to me or any other elitist jerk or whatever that, oh, just improve, just adapt to survive. But can you do it? Like, can everyone else do it? Is everyone willing to do it? This will definitely negatively affect a lot of progression groups, a lot of beginner groups, which are the majority of the player base. You can tell me and whatever other endgame guild just to improve, just to adapt. We will. We always have, and we will. But like this right now, I don't know. I don't like. I don't think any other group can do it. And the part of the reason is when we looked at the numbers, and Lokkestiiz's beam hits way too hard. So this again begs another question: are they gonna adjust the content to conform to the healing nerfs and adjustments, or are they gonna buff heals again? It's debatable whether they should adjust the content. I mean, I know they said it in like a announcement a week ago, I believe, that hey, we're gonna look at certain content and adjust the numbers or something for to conform to the healing nerfs and adjustments. So that's debatable whether that's good or not, because I'm going to be going to that later in a bit. And after all that, after all the testing and seeing the tooltips for vigor and all that, we decided to go into cloud rest. And here, I switched to Templar healers, typical Griffin Heart setup, Eben plus Infallible Aether, and Bogdan. And Bogdan was actually surprisingly not too bad. I mean, honestly, in terms of raw healing potential, Bogdan was pretty ridiculous anyway. I think the nerf was okay. And there isn't really any other set in terms of raw healing output that can really compete with Bogdan anyway, so most healers will probably keep it for very heal-intensive fights, very healing-intensive mechanics. So Bogdan nerf wasn't that big, in my opinion. We actually had to like go through all this, but again, flare, whatever, lightning bar swab, none of those are really relevant to healing. So I wanted to test specifically ice plus the dark green plus the malicious strikes and the baneful for cloud rest execute. I'm going to skip forward to that part over here towards the end. Let's see. Okay, and here we are with a bunch of dead people. This is not a result of bad healing or healing being nerfed. This is just a result of people making really bad decisions. So healing in bed cloud rest is fine. If you still don't believe me, I'll tell you something later. But healing in cloud rest is fine. Healing in Craggler and Trials is fine. Healing in Mob Cottage is more than fine. You can still solo heal instances for sure. You can still solo heal hard mode execute, in my opinion, for sure. But I really was interested to see what the healing was like in Cloud Rest. And I think we're almost done here. Okay. I think she heavy attacks. It's pretty hilarious. Trials and Tribulations of putting a PTS raid team together when no one wants to raid on PTS. Oof. Thankfully, some devs were watching to collect feedback and data. So I really want to thank everyone in this raid for showing up and, like helping, like collect data, collect information, collect feedback for the devs to look at. It was a pretty important raid, and I really want to thank them for it. But yeah, here we are entering execute. And typical stuff, ice, hoarfrost spitting out, ice projectiles, the heal debuff / dot. From here, the tanks were fine. the malicious strikes still coming out from the orbs, plus ice, plus the dark drain. Here's the bane. Here's us literally just putting our hots down both healers and just spamming combat prayer. And we literally just power heal through the baneful with combat prayer. And a lot of healers still can't heal through baneful these days. Next patch, whatever. I mean, bad healers will still be bad healers. Good healers will still be good healers. With the playstyle, I don't know, doesn't really allow for skill play. I think the skill level, the ceiling has definitely gone down in terms of the healer rule next patch. So honestly, I don't know. But yeah, as you can see, it's completely fine. And you'll be like, well, Nephis, that's because you're experienced or whatever. Or, I don't know, or maybe that's special buffs, but I'm really going to show you something here. Here, I found out on my Templar character, I literally have no points into the rest of the stat passives. And I still heal through Baneful, I still heal through the Ice, I still heal through Fed Cloud Rest. So healing is not really gonna be an issue for most fights next patch. What's more important though is still the concerns I raised earlier. So the two main things we want to really keep an eye on, whether they want to nerf the content to conform to the healing nurse or buff the healing. I am personally, someone, Reborn Zombie, the other class rep, actually helped me. She asked me a great question. She's like, well, after all that, what do you think is the worst change? Do you think the Orb Change is worse or the Healing Springs change is worse? At first, I didn't really know how to respond because I was trying to think about, trying to process it, trying to analyze it, and after a while thinking about it, I told her in the stream, after thinking about it, it's definitely the Healing Spring change that's the worst. You can feel it as a healer, you can see it as a healer. It's for very healing intensive fights like Lokkestiiz HM and vHoF HM execute. We didn't even have to vHoF HM execute to know that it was not going to be a good result. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I strongly think that the healing spring cap should not be 1. Should be maybe 2 or 3 if they really want to keep a cap on it. It just isn't good. And the one of the last concerns I raised at the beginning of this video, if you remember, guys, was the healer as a role. So the playstyle of it is very simple, and this allows for really interesting stuff, really interesting builds. Like at the beginning of the raid, me and Sarah were just talking it out. We're like, okay, well, we're not really spamming healing springs anymore. We're not layering heals anymore. We're not pushing out as many orbs as we can. So our sustain is great. So we're like, all right, let's just slap on all spell damage glyphs on jewelry. Just go high spell damage. With 3, that's a scary thing too. With 3 spell damage and a I believe an infused. I don't think it was infused. I think with 3 spell damage and a weapon and spell damage enchant, I still couldn't heal through Lokkestiiz HM. So again, are they gonna nerf the content to adjust to the heal? Same thing for vHoF HM. But those are the only 2 fights I'm really concerned about, for sure. Again, it's debatable whether they should do that or whether they should buff the heals. I think Code at the end of the raid, he brought up really good points, really great valid points that, hey, I mean, everyone has access to Vigor, everyone has access to the Fighters Guild skill line. You don't need a weapon, you don't really need anything special to run it. And he's right, you don't need a 2-hander, you don't need a Destro staff to run Vigor or Circle Protection for more healing. but in comparison, you need a Resto staff to run Healing Springs, Combat Prayer, Mutagen, and so on. But they are severely lacking or not very good in comparison to these universal skills that require no specialized weapon. I think he said it much better than me, but he had a really good valid point. The fact that they were not on equal level when one should be better than the 2 others simply because it's specialized, right? You would expect that healers would need to have better heals than a damage dealer. And so that leads me to the next concern we still have after testing all of this in the PTS raids. Do you need a healer anymore? Let's think about this. So, what do DPS really need now? Combat prayer, right? Why not just have DPS wear slime crawl for minor berserk? And you'll be like, well, what about the heals? What about the orb? Well, a tank can run an orb for everybody in the group. Remember, there's no limit on how many people can synergize one orb. And tanks can easily, I mean, this next patch is going to be a great patch for tanks. Tanks will easily, like, put out an orb for everybody. Worst case scenario, you can have one DD run like a mystic orb or something. And remember, everyone can synergize that mystic orb for massive damage. And again, you'll be like, well, what about the healing? Well, you still need intensive healing, right? For trash fights or for beginner groups or whatever. Well, the Vigor is so much healing done. It's like 10 to 15k on tooltip for in under 5 seconds. That's astronomically bigger than the healing we saw here from my Templar and my Warden healer. What if everyone, I even raised this issue in the review of the Scalebreaker patch notes. What if everyone could sustain and heal themselves? Why would you bring 2 healers to a raid? Why not just bring, 10 DPS that can sustain and heal themselves? And to what extent do the devs want us to run? How much utility and how much defensive skills? But I think you can easily do all this without 2 healers. I think you can easily easily do a Craglorn without any healer. And that's the thing, that the healer as a role honestly has always been in danger of being pushed out from content. You know what I mean? Like, it was less than 3 to 4 years ago that it was a crazy idea. It was a crazy idea for most people that you would dare do 3 DPS and 1 tank for dungeons and pledges. It was a crazy idea, and then people have started doing that more and more and more. Power creep, the available skills to those people, to damage dealers, the power creep, the content, the nature of the mechanics has allowed for all this to occur. And if you think the new DLC dungeons are gonna need a healer, not correct. Code even said at the end of the stream, while we were doing the new DLC dungeon, we had a healer, and then we realized we didn't require a healer. It was actually harder with the healer because you need more DPS. It's like the healer as a role has always been in danger of being pushed out from content. Right now, you'll just have 1 healer for for AA hard mode or Hell Raw hard mode and 9 DPS. Even for vHoF hard mode, you'll have a healer easily solo heal up until, I mean, you'll have 2 healers for boss 1, the hunter killers, but then after that, until the assembly general, you don't really need 2 healers. That's how bad it's gotten. And the changes to the healing cap, the changes to the healing numbers and such, it just reinforces the notion that you don't need healers. But overall, that is pretty much it. That is what my thoughts are. That is what I have experienced on the PTS. You guys could probably take away different ideas, different concepts, different discussions away from what was just discussed in this video, or what you saw in the stream, or what you see in this video. But I think healer as a role is yet again, well, not yet again, but in real serious danger next patch. So we'll see what they really do. Again, they were watching the stream. They'll take the feedback and they'll decide what to do. And all we can do is pretty much wait and see what they'll do. But yeah, that is pretty much it, guys, for this video. These are my findings. Feel free to discuss it down in the comments below or drop by my Discord to discuss it with me. I put the ESO logs, the data and all that in the description down below, and also the link to this stream VOD below in the description as well if you guys want to check out the full run or just flick through it. But as always, if you guys have enjoyed my content, feel free to hit that subscribe button. I think we are on our way to 4,000 subscribers, hopefully 10,000 after that. And hit that bell notification button if you ever want to be notified of my newest video. And as always, guys, stay safe, have fun, and see you next time.